Hi everyone, how are you today? I'm just going to continue in the 19 proofs that there will be a post-tribulation rapture. So today we're going to focus on proof number 16, where we're going to go through lots and lots of scripture verses to show that there is no mid-tribulation rapture. I know that's the belief for some people, opposed to a pre-trib or a post-trib rapture, but I'm going to go ahead and read through these verses with you and just let the scriptures just prove for themselves that we will know what type of rapture we're going to be taken in with the timing. So let me go ahead and gotta get my readers on here. Okay, so some have thought, or they had taught, a mid-tribulation rapture. However, this position is impossible, since it assumes that the tribulation lasts for 7 years. Okay, and we've been talking about that so far up to this point that we know the tribulation, the Great Tribulation, isn't for 7 years. It's actually going to be for 3.5 years. And where I'm actually going to start at is in Daniel 7:25. And what it says is, he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws. And they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time. Now, we are going to hear that several times throughout. And there's also going to be another description of this 3.5 years to prove that this time they're talking about, and times and dividing of time, is actually the 3.5 years. So time being 1 year, times being 2 years, and then dividing of time being a half of a year. So notice time is 1, dividing of time would be a half of that. And then, so let me say that again. Time is 1, times is 2, dividing of time would be half. So 1 plus 2 is 3, plus the half is 3.5 years. I'm also going to go ahead and continue reading then in, if we go further in Daniel, you're going to see Daniel 12, verses 1 through 7. And at the time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book. And many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. And they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament, and they that turn many to righteousness as the stars forever and ever. But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. Okay, verse 5. Then I, Daniel, looked, and behold, there stood other two, the one on this side of the bank of the river, and the other on that side of the bank of the river. And one said to the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, how long shall it be to the end of these wonders? And I heard the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, when he held up his right hand and his left hand unto heaven, and swear by him that liveth forever, that it shall be for a time, times, and a half. Okay, so I did say about the dividing of time is the, I did say the dividing of time was half of a year. And we can see here that in verse 7, it says time, so 1 year plus the 2 is 3. And then it also says and half. So that tells you that the dividing of one time is a half a year. So there is more proof there. And one thing I really want to point out is that Daniel has so much prophecy in it. If you haven't known that already, we cannot understand Revelation unless we understand Daniel first, because they go hand in hand. And to not understand one makes it impossible to understand the other. And Daniel's full of prophecy, which whenever I'm going to start a study here on understanding the end times, you're going to see that more and more in there. So anyway, just keep that in mind on what we read here in Daniel. And then I'm going to go ahead now and turn to Revelation. As I said, you can't understand Daniel unless you understand Revelation. And I want to also point out that one was written in the Old Testament. So one's from the Old Testament. And then finally, whenever Revelation comes along, was in the New Testament when John was on the Patmos Island. So they're that many years far apart, but you're going to see the major similarities between them as well here. Okay, so we're going to Revelation 12, 1-7. Okay, so Revelation 12, 1. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and upon her head. Sorry, I lost my place. My phone was going off. So a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. Now, this is actually the symbolization for Israel. And she, being with child, cried, traveling in birth, and pain to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in heaven. And behold, a great red dragon, which we know the dragon is Satan, having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns upon his heads. And his tail drew the 3rd part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. And she brought forth a man-child, who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught up unto God, and to his throne. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she hath a place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels. Now, what I'd like to point out to you, there's a lot of prophecy in here. But for the sake of what we're talking about today, with the times here. So looking at verse 6, it says that they should feed her there 1,260 days. And whenever you add up all those numbers, or whenever you add those numbers up, you know that that also equals 3.5 years. So there's other proof that it's 3.5 years that we're talking about from the book of Daniel. If I go ahead then and look at Revelation 11, 3 to 12. So Revelation 11, 3 to 12, it says, "And I will give power unto my witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth." Again, 3.5 years. And we have even more. So in Revelation 12:6, if we go and look at that, it says, "And the woman fled in the wilderness." Okay, I just read that one. I'm sorry. I don't want to repeat that one again. So yeah, the 3.5 years. Revelation 12, verses 7 through 12. So let's go ahead and look at that. 12, 7 through 12. Okay, "And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought his angels, and prevailed not. Neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, Now is come salvation and strength and the kingdom of our God, and the power of his Christ. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto the death. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea. For the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time." And that's something I want to point out. The devil knows at this point, that when he's cast out and he goes, the spirit of the Antichrist, then the devil has taken power over him, and he knows that his time is very short. 3.5 years is very short. And because of that, he is going to wreak all havoc on the earth. So let me go ahead and continue to 14. "And when the dragon saw that he was cast unto the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man-child." So he's persecuted Israel. "And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle," which is the United States for the great eagle, and we'll start covering that when I get to understanding the end time. "And she might fly into the wilderness, into her place, where she is nourished for a time, and times, and half a time, from the face of the serpent." So for 3.5 years, again, we saw that time, times, and half a time. We saw that back in Daniel, talking about the same thing here. This is the moment when the great eagle, which is the United States, and you also will see that in Daniel 7:4, so that's where the prophecy connects into Revelation here. People think people think that they don't see the United States in the book of Revelation as part of that beast, that the United States will not exist. However, we should be rejoicing that we are not a part of that beast, because that is the driving force to cause people to take the mark of the beast, to be deceived into that, and also to pledge allegiance to the one world government, which is that beast. And again, we should be thankful that we're not into that. Where you're going to see, what's the beast? You're going to see the lion, you're going to see the feet of the bear, you're going to see the leopard, you're going to see the 7 heads, and also those 10 horns. You do not see the eagle in there, but this is where you see the eagle. And if you did not realize that, go back and read Daniel 7:4, and you want to connect that to these verses that I'm reading in Revelation of chapter 12, 13 to 14. That's where you'll be able to find that. But we'll cover that more when we get to that part of the study. But anyway, we can see 3.5 years that the people of Israel are going to be nourished, and that obviously the great eagle of the United States will be part of that, helping them. And it is going from the time here that it's time, times, and half a time, 3.5 years, just like we saw back in Daniel. Okay, so let's go ahead then and look at Revelation 13. So Revelation chapter 13, 5 through 7. And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. So 40 plus 2, 42 months, divided up is 3.5 years. And then he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints, and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. So we're talking about the Antichrist there, where Satan's spirit is wreaking havoc on the saints in those 3.5 years. But we can see that again, 40 and 2 months. So there's another version. So if you're ever going to question the times, and half times, or the days that's mentioned that I talked about, well, you can see here that it's 42 months. 42 months broken down, 3.5 years. Okay, now let me go ahead and I want to look at where we're going to see this misunderstanding of a mid-tribulation rapture theory has come from. And where you're going to see it, and a lot of times when we see people that have a theory on these things, typically it comes from a misunderstanding of what the verses are saying in the Bible. So where this one's coming from is Daniel 9:27. And this one's, I'm going to first read you the King James Version, and then there's a couple words in here that I saw in NIV that I want to show you just to give you a little bit more understanding of this and why it's a misconception for people. It says, and he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. For the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. So I want to tell you a couple things here. So from the King James Version, where it says 1 week, the NIV will say 1/7. And then, so 1 the 7 days. And also the NIV where it says, the King James Version where it says in the midst, the NIV says pretty blatantly, it's like right in the middle. So it says middle of the 7. Where there will be causing of desolation. So what this is speaking of is, this speaks of the covenant that will be confirmed for 7 years. Okay? This isn't talking about the Great Tribulation. This is talking about the covenant, the peace treaty, that's going to be established for where Jerusalem is, where there's a sharing agreement. And I know if you've watched End Time Ministries at all, especially in the last month, I think they've really focused a lot on talking about this covenant or this peace treaty that's going to be occurring. And if you're looking, and I know I'm kind of going ahead from where, because I know I'm going to be teaching to understand the end to help you to understand this better, there's a timeline. And on the timeline, that talks about a World War III. That's not the war that's going to occur in Armageddon, but this is the sixth trumpet war that's talked about in the Bible. And there has to be something, like, I know there's talks of the peace treaty right now between the Palestinians and the Jews, because there's been such a war going on with that, the Temple Mount, that they're both claiming that of ownership of that area, which we know God's given that to the Israelites. But anyway, there was a war in 1967, the 6-Day War, and it was basically Israel was driving away the people that don't belong in that was given to them. And they ended up stopping before they should have, because then that allowed this sharing arrangement that is, you can see it's kind of occurring where the UN, they're the ones that are really policing that area, not Israel and not Palestine, but it's the UN that's doing that. And so for where I'm going with this is saying that there is a peace treaty coming. There's talks of it already. But I believe, now this is me speaking, and I agree with End Time Ministries, because they say the same thing. Like, we can't prove that a sixth trumpet war is going to come first. However, in my logical thinking, I just feel like it is going to come first, because it just seems like it's going to take something drastic for Israel and for Palestine to be able to come to an agreement. Neither one wants to give up land, and if there's something that's going to be very tragic, well, what's more tragic than a third of the world dying in a war? And so anyway, that's, to get back to my point, that's what's being talked about here. It's a covenant, the 7-year covenant between the two states. Not a great tribulation for 7 years, but it's a covenant that they're talking about. Now, the first 3.5 years, the Jews are going to be able to have that third temple, and they're going to be able to give their sacrifices just like they did in the Old Testament. But right here you can see that it talks about where those are going to cease, and that's the Antichrist that's going to have those cease. It says in the middle. So in the middle of those 7 years is when that's going to happen. The Antichrist is going to stand in that third temple, because he is one that signed this covenant among many, but he's going to be standing at the 3.5 year period, and he's going to claim to be God in that third temple. And then at that 3.5 mark, he's going to demand that the sacrifices stop. And this is going to be a Holocaust like we've never seen. And we've read that in a couple of the scriptures here, that it's a Holocaust. It is going to be such a desolation of people. And I think about how bad the Holocaust was. I mean, you think about all those people. And this is something Jesus said we've never seen before. It's going to be horrible. But that's going to happen at the 3.5 years. And that's when it will occur. So Jesus said that the abomination of desolation, that is going to mark the beginning of the Great Tribulation. And where I was talking about that Jesus said that, that's in Matthew 24, verses 15 through 21. So I would go back and read that, because that tells you when this is going to occur. Now, from all this, we know that the Great Tribulation, it's going to last for 3.5 years. It's going to last for 3.5 years. We've seen that with time times half a time, time times dividing of time, which we proved there that the dividing of time that's half of a year. Again, 3.5 years. We see this also with the 40 and 2 months, 3.5 years. We also see this where it says 1,203 days, count those or add those up. That's 3.5 years. It's not a 7-year thing. It's 3.5 years. First 3.5 years is going to be peaceful. After what I believe is the 6th trumpet war will occur, the peace treaty will come. Everything will be peaceful for those 3.5 years. The Antichrist, he is going to be one of those names that sign, and it says among many that sign the 7 years of this peace. And when it says among many, see, that's where it really makes me think that the 6th trumpet war will occur first. Because if there are many people that sign this covenant, then that tells you there must have been some huge drastic event that occurred. I could just picture it right now. I could picture that war occurring, every nation being desperate for peace, is what I could see happening. And I could see all them showing up at the UN, and I could see all them signing it. But of those signatures, when that occurs, the Antichrist will be a part of that. When will we know exactly when it's the Antichrist? It's going to be, or who the Antichrist is, it's going to be when he stands in that third temple and declares to be God. Again, 3.5 years. Once that happens, then we know that is when all this desolation is going to occur. And it's, Jesus says, it's like, we've never seen anything like this before. But again, 3.5 years. And if you go back and read all of Matthew 24, you're going to see that Jesus talks about all these things that are coming. We're already seeing how many of them now. Have we not experienced pestilence? I remember listening to Irvin preaching on one of his broadcasts when COVID-19 was starting up. And he said they're calling it a pandemic. He said, what does pandemic mean? Look pandemic up, because it means pestilence. Are we not seeing that now? So anyway, lots of things that Jesus talked about. What wars and rumors of war. It's gone on like crazy. What else? Earthquakes, right? In diverse places. We're seeing earthquakes everywhere right now. If you ever get a chance, look on a website, the history of earthquakes. They'll show you a chart, and you're going to see from over the years how it just has climbed and climbed to where we are right now. There's earthquakes all the time. So lots of different things happening already. But go back and read what Jesus says, and especially when he says about immediately after the Great Tribulation. He said immediately after the Great Tribulation will we, his elect, be caught up in the clouds with our Lord, and he's going to be sending his 4 angels to do that. Just please go back and read that, because I think you're going to find a lot of revelation in there. Best thing to do is when you're reading the scriptures, best thing I can ever tell you is try to get out of your head anything you were ever taught by man. Just let God speak to you. Because I'm telling you, he's going to reveal to you the truth. And I'm saying just everybody. Don't even anybody that's ever taught you. Only go by what God teaches you. Yes, God uses people to teach us. I totally get that. I'm doing that right now. But for me to find revelation in this was I had to get alone with Jesus and read the scriptures. And when I did that, I could not believe the amount of revelation he was giving me. To this day, he gives me revelation. Always. There's things that I've been reading a million times. What was it? The 23rd Psalm the other day. I'm really into this God's given me this prophetic drawing, which is amazing. People can't believe it. I couldn't draw before. I was lucky if I could draw stick figures, and all of a sudden, one day, drawing. But anyway, I decided to go through the 23rd Psalm, and basically just I wanted to draw pictures and what God's given me to draw, not what I come up with, but what God gives me. And my son, he's 9, and he goes, "Mom, I love these." He goes, can I have these? And I came up with the idea, I'm going to make him a book for it. And, but anyway, it's a whole nother story. But when I got to, the last one that I just completed, which is the last verse, and it says that we will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. I was just like, after I drew the picture and I look back at it again, I thought to myself, I've read this a million times, and I always thought that only basically meant for after we pass and our spirit leaves our body to be with the Lord, that's when we're going to be in the house of the Lord forever. Not what God means. Yes, that is going to happen. But he revealed to me that he said, am I not in you now? Is my house not in you now? And I'm like, yep, yes it is. Yes, you are, Lord. And he said, so why do you have to wait till you pass for that to happen? And I was like, whoa, yeah. Why do I have to wait? Because think of the joy and I was looking at the drawing after God's given this to me, and the joy and the holiness of his house. And I was like, I started picturing that inside of me. And I'm like, why would I have to wait? Because I could have that joy right now, which I know our joy and our strength comes from the Lord. But whenever your heart connects with the word and your spirit and what God's telling you, pretty blown away. I've read that a million times, never saw that before. So what I'm saying here is, in order to understand the timing of things here, do I know exactly what day this is going to occur? Absolutely not. However, God's given us the prophecies to have an understanding of a timeline. Now, if somebody ever preaches to you and says it's going to happen this day, this time, don't believe it. That's not scriptural. However, I can look at this and I can see a timeline of events that are occurring, so I have an idea. Now, I truly believe, from what I'm reading here so far, and I've given you 16 proofs now, I have no doubt that it's going to be a post-tribulation rapture. As I said in all my other videos, would I love for it to be a pre-tribulation? Who wouldn't? Who wouldn't? However, it's going to be post-trib. We are going to be here through all these things. But how exciting is this that we're going to be evangelizing? We are going to be talking with people constantly, and we're going to be sharing the knowledge and the wisdom that God has given us. Those who understand will instruct many. That's you and I. If you want to be a part of it, you got to start understanding this. You got to stop allowing your flesh to get in the way. You have to stop allowing the mind, the battleground that Satan will put all those seeds of doubt in you. You have to stop allowing that to happen. Just open your mind, open your heart, open your soul to what God has to tell you. And believe it because of what God says. Don't believe it because I say it, or Brother Irvin Baxter said it, or Dave Robbins, or Doug, or Vince. Don't believe it because they say it. You believe it because of what God says to you through the reading. And I'm telling you, your mind is going to just be amazed. Your mind's going to be blown away by what he's going to reveal to you. And knowing this does not cause me turmoil whatsoever. I have found such a great peace because I understand this, because God's told me what's going to happen. There's a huge amount of peace. And I know what I'm going to be doing in those days. If I'm still here, I know what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be teaching others. Our goal, the goal that God has for us, our mission, is to not sit back and wait. We are not to sit back and wait. Yes, we're waiting on the Lord, but we are supposed to be busy while we're waiting. And God wants to use you to continue to grow the kingdom. Don't you want to be a part of that? How exciting is that? Like, I'm ecstatic. And I'd love doing this. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing right now, because I know that is the purpose of our lives, especially in the times we are living. Don't miss it. You could wait on the Lord, and your salvation's there. And it's wonderful. I'm so thankful for that, because it's such a gift that God's given me. Nothing I deserve at all, but he's given it to me and to you. And you could sit and you can wait on him, and that's fine. However, don't you want to live out the purpose that he's given you while you're waiting, helping others? How many lost souls are out there, guys? You know, become a soul winner. How many souls? Makes me sad, because I know of so many people that I love so much. They're going to perish. They're not going to be with the Lord forever. And it makes me sad. Especially those people that I love so much. It makes me so sad to think about that. So what should we be doing? We shouldn't be sitting here. We shouldn't just be sitting and waiting at all. You should be living your life spreading the gospel of our kingdom, of our Lord. So anyway, that's all I have for today. I love you all, and I pray that today's message just truly blessed you, and that you're going to continue just to seek and knock and call on the Lord, so he will reveal to you what he wants you to see. But anyway, I love you all, and God bless. I'll see you another time. Bye.